Friends and professionals, welcome to another Model Lending Podcast live. I'm your host, Alec Hansen, but you know that because it's my podcast, and so you don't need to say your name in the things. All right, we're back on the road to 100 million. We are ending the year interviewing some incredible mortgage professionals who have done incredible things in their career in an attempt to inspire you in this tough market. Because, man, if we ever need inspiration, it's just this market right now. Jeff Zulauf is joining me, guys. Before we dive into him and bring him on, I just got to share some stats. This guy's an absolute monster. 581 units last year, 172 million. And then this year to date, in one of the hardest markets we've ever seen, 244 families, customers, humans changed for 84 million. And then he laughed at me. He's like, I'm getting over 100 this year. No problem. I got the pipeline. I'm going for it. This guy's an absolute boss. It's going to be a fun conversation. Listen up, ask questions, hang out with us, and we'll kick it off on the road to 100 million. Jeff, my man, Jeff. It's great to see you, dude. How are you today, man?
Doing great, Alec. Doing great. Thanks for having me.
You know, I'm excited for this conversation today. Oh, and the echo's picking up. We'll see if it picks up. But man, I told you we'd start an origin story. We go right into like kind of who you are, where you got in the game. So, what you're a 20-year vet now?
That's about this is year 18 for me, so we're getting close. Don't give me too much credit yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna round up for sure.
We can round when we get that close. We can round up.
So let's get the story, Jeff. How'd you find this great industry?
So I was got a master's degree in human resources. I was working for a company called Kimberly-Clark, one of the biggest paper manufacturers in the country. Went to the University of Tennessee, got my master's degree. Started out as an intern there, worked my way up. I was a human resource generalist. And then I get a call from my brother one day, and he had moved to Atlanta. He was working in the mortgage business. Remember those things called fax machines where you would stand in front of them and the paper would come out?
A miracle.
He told me
a miracle.
Technology. It was a miracle. You stand in front and the digits come out on a piece of paper. Well, I'm standing in front of it. I go, what am I waiting for? He said, just stand there and wait by your fax. So I'm standing there, and here comes one of his pay stubs, right? So I'm like, wow, that's pretty good. That's a great month. I go, I don't really believe you, though. Send me another one. So I stand there another 5 minutes waiting for a fax. Lo and behold, here comes another month and another great paycheck. And I said, well, that's about what I make in a year. You're 2 months. And he said, Jeff, we have a saying in the mortgage business, make last year's gross this month's net. I really like that saying. Hey, why don't you make last year's gross this month's net? And I said, you can really do that? And he said, hey, in this business, if you work your butt off, you're the boss. The harder you work, the more you make. So kind of intrigued me. It was intriguing, right? I was working for a mill manager at the time that wasn't the nicest guy, and he was very micromanaging, would be a good word for it. But so my brother said, hey, why don't I train you on the mortgage business? I said, I don't know anything about mortgages. He said, but look, you're good at math, right? And I said, yeah. You're good with people. And I said, I hope so. I'm in human resources. So to me, it seemed like a good marriage, right? I did really well in math in school, had the people skills, had the sales skills. My whole, up until I went off to college, I worked in several sales roles for like a Best Buy type of company.
Yeah.
I worked in the small appliance department where they sold computers and stuff. So I knew how to sell, right? You had to sell computers and other things and appliances and stuff. So I had the sales background, had the numbers, had the psychology because of, being in human resources. To me, it sounded like a good fit. What do you think?
You just dove in. You just dove in. You just like, I'm in.
Just dove in. So my brother sent me a couple of DVDs through the mail, right? And there's a guy sitting at a podium. There's this guy sitting at a podium and he's teaching me how yield spread works. So I was learning how to read a rate sheet, how mortgages worked. It was like a 2-part series. And that's initially how I learned the background of the business. And then, I just dove in feet first. I put my house on the market for sale by owner. I lived in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yep.
And I moved to Atlanta. My brother showed me the ropes. We spent about a month together. I think I lived in his workspace for about a month, and we just sat there and I watched what he did. I remember his daughter was like 3 months old. I was carrying her in my arms, walking her around the living room while he talked to a customer. So it was trial by fire.
What was your first role?
What was your first role when you started?
When I first started, I was just I went right in as a loan officer. So
you did?
little scary for me because I was taking away a salary position that I was comfortable with, and even though I didn't make a lot of money as a human resource generalist, it was still enough to pay my bills, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so now I'm going to have no safety net. I'm moving to another state, and it's sink or swim. So
let's dive.
Let's dive into this.
There is a little bit of an echo. Are you hearing on your
side?
A little bit. Let me turn this down a little bit.
I really want you to unpack this first year for me.
The first year was pretty incredible. So, like I said, I'm learning from my brother. The first month, it's just side by side, looking over his shoulder surfing, watching him put files in, watching him talk to customers over the phone. And so basically the way he got all of his business at first was lending tree, which as we all know are tough. You're beating your brains out for every deal. You're going as skinny as you can to win every single deal. So it was a lending tree, and then probably even worse, bank rate leads. So they would get the phone to ring through bank rate. So that is how I cut my teeth in the industry, is bank rate and lending tree leads.
Do you have any recollection of what you funded that first year?
I would say I probably did around 30 million my first year.
Just banging leads.
Just banging leads, 30 million first year in the business, maybe 35 million. I know after my first month in the business, there was 30 loan officers at this small broker shop called First Discount Mortgage, and I was number one after the first month.
Really?
Yep. And every month thereafter, I kind of took over and I kind of left my brother in the rearview mirror. Now, bless his heart, he brought me into the business and he did put a lot of time into me, but I did take over the number one spot. I do remember driving home because I lived really close to him when I moved down, and we would drive back and forth to work together, and we would take, ride share. And one day I got a little emotional on the way home, and he goes, "Why are you getting choked up?" I said, "Because I finally found something that I love to do, and this is what I was meant to do, is mortgages." So he goes, "Well, don't get all emotional on me here."
That's incredible, dude.
Yeah. So I was finally happy. I found my calling in life, and lo and behold, it was my brother that found it for me.
That's so good, dude. Well, so when did you break out of leads then and get into kind of the traditional real estate referral business?
So I did that probably for the first 5 years of my career. And then, I was working for an online shop, and then one of my buddies, we all kind of worked together. After the broker shop went out of business, I worked for one more broker shop, and same thing. We were getting leads and everything. And then one of my buddies finally was like, "Hey, have you ever thought of working for a bank?" And I said, "Not really, but yeah." So we interviewed with Wells Fargo, one of the biggest banks at the time, right? And started cutting my teeth on the bank side and learning the differences between the broker world and the bank side and everything. So definitely a big difference between brokers or lenders and banks. So
no kidding.
It kind of gave me a more well-rounded perspective of the mortgage business. So, and I think everybody along the way should probably make one stop at a bank, I guess. I don't know.
Well, I was going to say, how long did you spend time at the bank?
So I was at the bank. I worked for Wells and Citi, and combined, I think those lasted about 3 years.
Yeah.
Not that long.
Yeah. And then you made what made you get out of the bank world?
Biggest issue was with the bigger banks, obviously very conservative. The biggest banks were. And I would say the closing on time was a big piece for me. As I became more and more involved in the real estate side, working with agents, I just noticed that, at least in Atlanta, I don't know how it is around the rest of the country, they were struggling closing loans on time. Yeah. And so I started seeing the reputational harm that some of the bigger banks had. And some of my agents were like, "Jeff, I love you, but we can't be missing closing dates. That's, very, very important. And so then I gave a regional bank a shot. And so I worked for probably one of the longest stints in my career was at a small regional bank called Fidelity Bank. It's no longer Fidelity. They got bought out by Ameris Bank, and they're more of a southeastern player. So I was there for about 5 years, and now they were really good at closing on time, had competitive rates, didn't have a lot of bank overlays.
Yeah.
And when we talk about overlays, those are things that can slow you down, right?
Sure.
So they didn't have a lot of those overlays. They went pretty much by AUS findings, and then they added a couple things that made sense. If you were doing an FHA loan and you were below a 640 credit score, they wanted to see 2 months of reserves. Just small things like that, nothing major.
So walk me through this a little bit, Jeff. As you're kind of living your bank life here, what's your production about? Where's the hovering at?
So when I was at Fidelity for those 5 years, I'd worked my way up to right in the low 70s.
Solid.
So 3 years in a row, I'm like 69 million, 71 million, 72 million. And it's just like I'd hit a brick wall, right?
Yep.
It's like no matter what I did, I wasn't going to get past that 70.
Why? Why do you think you stuck there?
A lot of it was, I would have to say, support. So at the bank, it was like if you wanted more help, you were going to have to hire on your own. You were going to pay for another assistant. It was like you were on your own. You're kind of cast off to the side. They were happy taking all of my business that I brought in for my agents, but they weren't willing to help me get to that next level. So I knew I had to do something different. And I mean, one of the other things that bothered me was the technology. They were way behind on technology. We were kind of beating our head against the wall trying to get deals through. Now we're processing and underwriting good. Yeah, they were good there for a small bank. They were really good. But I mean, without the technology, without the support, I was kind of stuck in that rut right there at 70 to 72.
Well, let's give the overview here. So did you have a team support structure? What was your origination strategy like? Were you out in the field? Like kind of paint the picture.
So I was out in the field. So I was lucky enough to land a marketing sales agreement. So I had an MSA with the Century 21 office.
Yep.
And at the time when I first started in that office with Fidelity, they had about 150 agents.
Yep.
And then the broker had grown it to 300 by the time I left. But my strategy was basically simple: spend as much time as I could with those agents, those 200 to 300 agents, whatever the roster had at the time, build those relationships because I had a captive audience, and try to grow it from there.
So Jeff, I see that we'll go a little tangent here because this is going to be helpful. I know a lot of people who really struggle with MSAs. They don't get capture. They don't get business. They think that, walk everyone through kind of what did you do to kind of break through that? How did you handle your day to day?
So we did have for a marketing sales agreement, we did have a high capture rate. At one time, we were pushing 25 to 30% capture rate. As you know, that's pretty high for an MSA. Most of them are 10 to 15% maybe. But basically, a lot of it was just hard work, like building the relationships, building the trust with the agents, showing them how working with a preferred lender that's there all the time, where reputation means everything. Like in that office, I was only as good as my last closing. So,
no doubt. I
mean, they all talk, right? In an office that size, they're all going to talk. And if you blow up one deal, I mean, talking about pressure, one deal, and I mean, you could be out the door. And I lived that for about almost a decade. I was there for about 9.5 years in that marketing agreement.
And so you sat in their office? Uh-oh. Lost you for a sec, Jeff. Come back.
Yeah, I'm here. Did you catch that?
No, you sat in the office every day?
Yeah, I sat in the office every day, Monday through Friday. I was there religiously because if you're not there, let's just be honest, there's other lenders trying to get in. So I had to be there to protect my turf.
I love that message, for people that are like, the MSA, the work is real, man. The work is real. To sit there every day and just kiss babies and defend your turf is grind central, man. So good for you, bud.
We paid good money for that little spot in the office. So I had a shoebox.
Yep.
It was maybe 6 feet by 5 feet. I was literally in a shoebox, no window, didn't know what was going on in the world outside. I just know that I needed to be there. And as much as I could, I would try to get up and walk around the office go out to the bullpen while they're working in the bullpen,
Yep.
where all the agents sat out in the middle of the office in what we called the bullpen.
Yep.
And I was just hammering on them. Hey, is there anything I can do? Do you have any buyers that I can pre-qualify? Why don't we go ahead and get them fully approved, get a loan commitment letter? I was pulling out all the stops on a daily basis.
So let's fast forward to today and last year, right? So last year, obviously, was a great year for a lot of people. You guys did an astronomical amount of closings. 581 is just gigantic. And already year to date at 244 is still a giant, giant number. Like, give everybody a little idea of like, what does your day-to-day look like now? What are you doing?
Well, I mean, like everybody else, it has slowed down a little bit, but you just shift your time, right?
Yep.
So instead of being knee deep in a million files, now we have less files, but I'm taking that time and I'm calling on agents, right? So I'm trying to keep those relationships going because, now that it is slower, there's other agents that I know that are pecking on them. So now I just shift my focus more to the recruiting side, recruiting other loan officers for our branch here.
Solid.
Spending more time with my agents, keeping top of mind with them, whether it's a phone call, a text, an email. And the loans that I have right now, obviously, they're going to get top priority and top love right now. We have more time to love on them. So let's
Jeff,
just be real.
What's a week look like for you? Like, break it down. Like, what time you get in the office? What time do you leave? What's your work-life balance? What are you doing every day? I want people to understand kind of the cadence of what you're living in.
Well, I have kids that are 10 to 12 years old. So those out there that have kids in that age range, one in fifth grade. So she has to be at school at like 7:30. And I've got another one that has to be at school at 9. So I'm up early. So I'm up early every day. I try to get in a quick workout. Got to keep the heart healthy. This is a stressful business that we're in. So I do try to get a quick morning workout in. And then I'm right on the computer answering emails. I usually wake up to about 50 to 100 emails.
Yep.
Depending on the day and the workload. And so I try to get through those emails first just to see if there's anything in there that needs, my immediate attention.
Yep.
And then obviously the new loans that come in through the email, I'll get a copy of the contracts as they come in. And like today, for example, on a Monday is a good day. We picked up 3 contracts over the weekend. Everybody shops on the weekend, come in Monday and there's your contract. So we go to work right away. And like you had mentioned earlier, I have a team. So everybody has their part, their cog in the wheel to make things go smooth. So we get those contracts up and going. I get the pricing set up. Once the market opens, the rates are out. I make sure we have the right rates. Everybody knows what they're getting. I set the expectation for the client and for the agent. Spend time on the phone with my clients and agents in the morning.
Yep.
And get those deals going.
How many realtors would you say you're working with approximately, if you're kind of had to guess?
I would say in any one given month, or even just in general, the ones that I work with, I would say probably around 50.
Yeah, pretty big net.
Pretty big net, yeah, and maybe even more than that sometimes. But I would say an average is about 50. You pick up some new ones.
Yep.
Some retire, go out of the business. I mean, when you've done it 18 years, you kind of see a little bit of everything. So
yeah, I mean, you always have to be prospecting. That's a great call out, right? Because agents do come in and out sometimes, and they're not always, yeah. But let's go here for team structure for a minute, because I know people always want to know about how guys that do this kind of volume, what their teams look like. Break down what your current team structure is.
So to have our well-oiled machine, we had it so that I'm out hunting, and then when the loans come in, I have my folks that help me with it. So I have 2 assistants that all they do is they'll help me with pre-quals. I'll get somebody to apply on my website when the application comes in. I have 2 gentlemen that will review the applications for me. They'll do a mock-up. They'll do all their notes, and they'll email me very copious notes as far as questions they have, any flags that I need, or any concerns that they may have that I need to address with the borrower. Basically set it up for me. They go over the credit, they go over the income, any questions on any of those things, and they basically give me a summary of the loan. And then I'll either call them, or if I'm out at a meeting, they can call them for me. They're basically an extension of me, right? They just don't want to be out there hunting and things like that. They'd rather be behind the computer.
Yep.
And they're more technical. They like to do the technical stuff, right? Reviewing apps and things like that. So it works out good. So once we get everything together on that, I'll call the client, get those questions answered. If everything looks good, then they will send me a copy of the pre-approval letter along with a quote. So it's all coming from me, right? I'll send off that quote. I'll review it first, but I'll send the quote off, the pre-approval letter, get it over to the agent, get it to the client so they can start shopping for homes and get moving on their end and kind of go from there. And then after the contract does come in, they find the home, it comes in. I have a gal, Veronica, that will set up the loan, pull all the numbers off the contract, put it into the system, put it in Mello, get it all teed up. She'll send me a screenshot of the pricing. Here's the rates today, Jeff. Do you want to lock or float? What rate you want? Charging any points? Do we need a pricing exception? So Veronica and I will go over the pricing. I'll call the client, see where they want to lock at. And then after that, she'll send the disclosures. She'll also take care of appraisals if they want to order it manually. They can do it online, but some people prefer to call in with a credit card. And she's also helping out with title, getting title ordered. So
it sounds like you're handling kind of the big conversations, rate, some of the more important stuff with the customer, and the team that you've kind of built around you is moving the file.
They're moving the file, exactly. And as the customer, as we send the disclosures out, we send a checklist along with it. As they're sending their documents in, Jeff and Andrew, my other two assistants, are reviewing the file, making sure everything's there. And then once it's all there, they'll push it over to underwriting. We go direct to underwriting here. Whereas my old model at the bank, it went to a processor. They had an SLA where they had 24, 48 hours to review it and send it off to underwriting. We skip all that. That saves a lot of time right there.
Yeah. No, so how long do you think it took to get your team into the well-oiled machine they are now?
I'd say after coming to Loan Depot, and obviously one of the first things we did was hire another assistant. And then we hired another one. We brought Veronica on. So we brought Andrew, then Veronica, and then we got Jeff Potenza. So we really started building it. I would say it probably took about 1.5 years to get it how we needed it to be. Almost 2 years, probably almost 2 years. So,
yeah, I mean, it's good for people to hear that perspective of like, it doesn't happen overnight.
No, it didn't happen in a month, didn't happen overnight. We had to fine tune the process, how we wanted it, kind of our vision of how we saw the loans going. Each person has their part of it, but also everybody can do everything. So if one person goes out, another person can take over and do what the other person does. So
100%. So based on your team structure, how much of your time is spent what I would call prospecting new relationships, new agents versus, client consultations and kind of, paper man or like team management? What's your take?
I try to stay at about 50-50 because I do have to be knee deep in the hoopla. I have to be in the loans. I feel like I have to be communicating with the clients and the agents that are current in the pipeline. But also I need that extra time, that other 50%. I try to go out and prospect, recruit, maybe have a lunch with an agent that I already work with to keep them happy, and maybe have a lunch with a prospective agent as well to, bring in new ideas, new agents.
So I think everyone would appreciate hearing this from you, Jeff. As you told your story, kind of stuck at the 69, 70, $71 million person. It looks like you scaled your team to really break through. Is that a fair comment? Like, is that what broke you through?
Absolutely. So we had to definitely get that first other assistant that I needed to get me through the 70. And so my first year at Loan Depot, we did about 92 or 93 million when you combined what I did at the bank plus the last part of the year, really last 8 months at Loan Depot. So I think that year I broke 92 million, somewhere in there. And then obviously 2020 hit, right? And so then we had to scale even bigger because the refis picked up. And even one thing I am proud of during 2020 and 2021, even though there was a lot of refis out there, I was still 70% purchase, 30% refi. So, I mean, the bread and butter is in the purchase. So that's a sustainable model. And I had friends in this industry that, they shut off all their agents during COVID.
Yes, they did.
Took all the refis. They were working to 2 or 3 in the morning, just refi only. And I went online and I looked in Mello 360, and those loan officers now took a 90% cut in pay. So looks like the backside of, Mount Everest.
Yeah, you really got to stay focused in this industry, man. It'll trick you. It'll trick you.
It will. Well, a lot of shiny objects out there. You got to grab the right ones.
So Jeff, let's go this direction for a little bit here. You know, a lot of people want to do what you've done. They want to build scalable teams. They want to do a lot of production. They want to serve a lot of people. What do you think are the character traits that enable somebody to kind of achieve this? If someone's looking in the mirror, you know, what do they need to have to get to this level of production?
I mean, honestly, you have to have a working knowledge of the business, right? The files. You have to know the guidelines.
Yep.
So you have to know a little bit about what you're selling, right? It's important
100%.
to know what you're selling to people. So you have to know loan programs. You don't have to know every guideline, but you have to know the basics, right? So that you don't look silly when people are asking you questions and you have to keep referring to, you know, a guideline book. But yeah, so you got to know what you're selling. You got to, you know a little bit about how the process works. And, you know, after that, it's really just getting people that are like you, that are like-minded, that have the work ethic that you have. Because if you want to get to those numbers, you have to work incredibly hard. It's not just about brains in this industry, although it helps. But to be a well-rounded loan officer and a top producer, you have to have that work ethic, be able to go out there and just talk to anybody. You can't be scared to talk to anybody. I mean, I'll be out at the deli getting a sandwich and hey, what do you do? And they'll be like, what do you do? And I tell them I'm a loan officer. Here's my card. Here you go. Because you never know where your next deal is going to come from. Right?
Let's unpack the hard work comment before, Jeff, because obviously I've heard this from many people. It does take hard work. Of course, it takes hard work. But like, what does that mean to you? What does hard work mean in a day-to-day experience?
So to me, a lot of times, in at least the last few years, especially, it's been long hours. So it's people that are committed to putting in the time. I mean, you're going to have agents that need you on a Sunday at 10 p.m. Are you going to answer your phone? I mean, are you going to be the person that answers the phone, or are you going to let it go to your voicemail? Because we all have families, we all have lives, but this is one of the biggest financial, things somebody's going to do in their life. And so they want people that are there for them to answer their questions when they're scared, when they're fearful, when they don't know what's next, right? What's next in the process. So they want people that are available. And so to me, I know it's tough, but sometimes just answering the phone, it sounds easy, but wait until you're in the middle of a dinner at a family dinner and you're ready to take a bite of food and there comes your agent calling. Do I answer or do I let it go to voicemail? So a lot of top producers will stop what they're doing, they answer the phone. So that's where we get paid, off the phone. So,
well, let's go one more deeper on this, Jeff. Like, how do you balance that with your work, with your life? You got kids, my age, I got young kids the same age, how do you balance that with your life?
So it's just time blocking, right? So it's like anything else. You have to set aside time, even for your family or anything else in life. Working out, you have to put things into time blocks. And so in the morning, before, my phone won't really ring too much before 8 a.m. It does sometimes, but I know I can get my workouts in then. I can get the kids off to school, help my wife take them to school. I spend that early morning with the kids. I'll do a little working out for myself, and then the rest is into the workday. In the evenings, I time block for dinner and stuff. Now, obviously, if a big deal's coming through, my wife understands at this point, 18 years, doing this. Hey, you need to answer the phone, go answer it. She's very understanding. So I'll answer the phone, because typically those conversations won't last too long. They'll be like, hey, I have a client. I really need you to pre-qualify. Will you give them a call? Sure. Finishing my dinner, I'll give them a call right away, So you just have to manage your time block. The weekends, a little bit more sporadic, right? Because not set hours here. That's usually when a lot of clients are out shopping. So here and there, I will get calls for a pre-approval letter, and usually they need it like yesterday. So you have to here's where it's hard, right? Because you may be out at a water park with your kids and you have to send a letter out, and you may not have your computer. Your phone may be in the car, who knows? But the good thing about having a team is I can lean on my teammates to help me too. Somebody's going to be home on my team to help get that letter out. So having the team definitely has enabled me to grow to greater heights as far as volume.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I reiterate that, Jeff. Number one, the coolest thing I heard you said was just the reality of the partnership you have with your family, and your wife being like, hey, I might need to do this. And she's like, I got your back. That's important. That's really important. Yeah. If you're going to be a top performer, I don't know anybody who's ever done it that doesn't have the support of their significant other getting their back. when you got to carry the load. So that's
it all starts with family, and it starts at home. Like you said, I couldn't do what I do without my family supporting me. So they know I support them, but they support me too. So it's a win-win.
All right. Well, let's spend the next part of this podcast on some tactics. Like I want to hear from you, keys to the success, things originators need to be doing, things that you do that are like these are non-negotiables. This is what I do every day to drive business. Even from the glory days, Jeff, as you were coming up, like what are some of the things that you really look back and be like, this mattered in my career in terms of driving to the success that you achieved?
Yeah, the biggest thing to me was building the database of happy clients. So to me, this was never about being a sprint. It was always about being a marathon. And the analogy I always like to use was a snowball.
Yes.
You take a little snowball and you take it at the top of the hill and you start rolling it down the hill. It gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And so to me, I saw other loan officers out there trying to make as much as they could on every loan. And not taking care of their clients, just, there's a lot of bad habits out there. And to me, it was about the relationship, and it was about a marathon. I wanted to give everybody a great deal, a fair deal. And I wanted to make sure they had a great experience so that they could refer me out, because every deal I closed, my strategic mind was saying I needed to get 3 more people. So.
Do you ask for referrals from past customers then? How do you cultivate your database?
I do. So after the closing went well, I have a survey that I send them, asking them if they can give us 5 stars if they feel like we didn't give them 5-star service. I want to know why so we can fix it, right? To me, it's important. Do we always hit the mark in this industry? No, we don't. I'd love to say every deal has gone 100% perfect, but I'd like to say we're as close as we humanly can be. So I always ask for referrals after closing. I give that survey out. That's really helped drive more business, because it helps my business to have those 5-star reviews, but it also helps to ask for business from the happy clients that you have now. And obviously, the better experience they have, you're going to get more referrals from the clients, and you're going to get more from your agents. So
do you have a weekly or monthly set strategy for your past customers that your team executes on to stay in contact and to try to get that referral out of them?
So we do have Total Expert that helps us stay in front of our clients. We have so I have a weekly newsletter that I do that goes out to clients and agents, talks about the market. I call it my mortgage minute.
I love it. Yeah,
so
I know that.
That's one way because I can't be everywhere at once, but I can do a mortgage minute and send it out to as many people as I can that are past clients, current clients, and agents that I work with. So
let's talk about the mortgage minute. Like, what is this? How'd you come up with it, and what do you do?
I'd say I started doing it during my time at my MSA, because a lot of agents had questions. They wanted to know what was going on in the market. And every Tuesday I had the opportunity to speak in front of the office at Century 21. And I found myself just writing up, here's the rate sheet for the week. And in that, I would put some commentary. And so it just evolved over time that, every Tuesday I was doing this. So then we came up with, hey, let's call it the Mortgage Minute. And then let's do a video with it. Some people like to read, some people don't. Some people like video. Everybody has different learning styles. So we added the commentary and the video to it. And so now we're religious about it. Every Friday, Mortgage Minute.
Yeah. So when you film them now, how do you send it out? What's your distribution like?
So we do it through the company here. We have to have everything vetted out, the rate sheet, everything has to be approved, all the verbiage. And so I have all my past clients in there. I probably have, maybe 30,000 in my database.
Woo!
And probably about 4,000 agents get it. So it goes out to quite a few people.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful snowball.
Yeah. That's the snowball part of it. It gets bigger and bigger. And we're going through multiple platforms right now. We send it out to Facebook. We're sending it out to TikTok. It's going out to LinkedIn, Instagram. So trying to get it out to as many people as we can. Like John Bianchi said, we want to paint Team Zulauf all over Atlanta. So,
but this is the thing that people don't realize. So how long have you been doing the Mortgage Minute? About?
So we've been doing it now for a few years, I would say.
Yeah. See, what I hope everybody is hearing through this conversation with Jeff is how consistent this guy is. From the MSA, showing up every day, sitting in there, to the Mortgage Minute, of like years now of sending out a weekly update of just what's going on, commentary, video, like this type of 30. You don't get to 30,000, database contacts without just unbelievable consistency over 20 years.
And some of the other things we're trying right now, Alec, is for about the last year, I've done some billboards, not a lot, but I've done a few of them around Atlanta here. And those are the same way. They're about consistency. It's branding. It's going to take time. It doesn't happen overnight. You don't put up a billboard and your phone starts ringing off the hook.
No.
It takes time, just like everything else we've been talking about. It takes time.
So do you have a key for your personal consistency? Because that's where people really struggle. And that's why we see loan officers' pipelines always go like this everywhere, because it just do you have a personal key to how you stayed consistent?
I would just say it's competitive drive. I played college basketball. I don't like to lose at anything. I don't care if we're playing a board game. I probably want to take the person's head off across from me. So I had two older brothers that are 6'7". They're huge, and I had to play them in basketball growing up. So we beat the heck out of each other, but just made me tougher. But I would say it's just being just ultra competitive. Don't like to lose to other lenders. Don't like to lose any deals to anybody. Especially online lenders. So, I'm here to take the gloves off, put them on, and compete. Whatever we have to do to fight for the business.
So two questions for your commentary, Jeff, as we kind of hit the end of the podcast here. Number one, you mentioned that as the market shifted, you've shifted more time over here, different activities. Like, what does that look like for you? Like, what are the core activities that you and your team are driving right now to get the results?
So right now we're doing more marketing. Like I said, I'm starting to ramp up some more of my marketing efforts. While it is a little bit slower and I have time to do it.
Yep.
Obviously during COVID, it was a little different story. Loans were coming out of the sky at that time. And so now shifting more of my focus to realtors, really. Where do we get most of our business? It's realtors, builders, trying to get other accounts on board, teams of agents, not being scared to pick up the phone and just call people. That's, one of a loan officer's biggest fears is just calling people, I guess, and people you don't know, maybe even agents I haven't talked to in a long time, just picking up the phone and re-engaging with them. Yeah, I know it can be awkward at first, right? So,
do you have a certain number of cold calls, so to speak, you're making a week or a month, or is it just kind of more like, as time? How do you approach that?
Sometimes it's as time allows, but I do try to make at least 2 or 3 agent calls a day. And then during the week, I try to set up at least 2 to 3 lunches a week.
Yep, it is.
That to me is important. And it's not just the new ones, right? I want to take care and stay in touch with the ones that I'm currently working with, because like I said, they're getting calls all over the place. It's funny, during COVID, our phones didn't ring with recruiters, but all of a sudden the market slowed a little bit. And I'm sure your phone's ringing off the hook.
Oh, no.
Everybody in Loan Depot, recruiters are recruiting like crazy right now. So
it's
a good time for us to recruit too for our branch. So we're looking at other top producers too to join Loan Depot. So I guess it's no different for anybody.
Well, here's what I want to end with, Jeff. As we look at this year, in my opinion, we're heading towards a dark and cold, winter. The years that round out, we're going into the next year. There's lots of uncertainty. What advice do you have for originators as a seasoned guy who's been around for 20 years? What advice do you have for people right now to tackle this market?
Just be consistent with what you're doing. And if you're not doing the things that we talked about, right, going after the agents, and it doesn't just have to be agents, that you can get business from all different kinds of ways. There's divorce attorneys. There's, think about it, right? There's 2 sides to a divorce. So there's CPAs, there's wealth managers, right? You've got all different ways. The schools, you can get involved in schools, get involved in charities.
Yep.
There's all different ways you can spin this to get more business. And the more people know what you do, the more chances you have to get business. That's the bottom line. People have to know what you do and point them to your 5-star reviews once you get them.
Yeah, so I just want everyone to hear this from Jeff. Like, just to reiterate, the consistency, the guy's just every day shows up to play. He's got the backing of his family to work extremely hard. And then he's not afraid to talk to anybody. Just that earlier, like, hey, getting a sandwich. What do you do? What do you do? Well, I do loans. And just the networking of constantly looking for ways to grow business seems to have served you really well, dude.
You have to be fearless and relentless.
All right. Any final commentary for anybody? Anything you want to leave some loan officers with, but besides the last comment, which was really great?
I mean, I just want to say, stay true to who you are and your personality. And I didn't get here without a lot of support from managers. I had Mike Shackford on my team help me build my team, where other people told me, no, you can't have the support. He helped us build a team here in Atlanta, and just stay true and stay consistent. That's really the big keys right there.
Well, dude, thank you for being on with me today. Thanks for rapping on the road to 100 million. Congratulations on all your success. And for all you listeners out there, tune in and find Jeff's Mortgage Minute, man. You'll appreciate it. You'll see what he's doing every day on Facebook, on TikTok, on these platforms as well, in addition to his 30,000 connections. So, Jeff, thank you. Hope you have a wonderful day. And for all you listeners out there, we'll see you next time on the Model Lending Podcast.